What's up, everybody? Big Herc 916. You tuned into another edition of my vlog. Want to say thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thanks for supporting and sharing. You know, I'm all about that positivity and that motivation. And, just kicking game with you guys. And I was talking with somebody, and they asked me, Big Herc, what would you have told a younger version of yourself as far as how life was and, any type of advice? At one point you were young and you were pretty reckless and you were doing a lot of stuff that, got you caught up. What could have been different if you think somebody would have talked to you? And I had to kind of sit back and think about that, man. Because I talk to a lot of youngsters and they just don't listen. The little homies got all the answers. They know it all. They getting money. They out here, they turned up. They think that they have all the answers. So it's not really much you can say to them, but more or less what you show them through your actions. And for myself, I looked up to a certain kind of person. And it wasn't a square. It wasn't somebody who wore their pants up high. It wasn't the person who went to the, job early in the morning at a 9 to 5. It wasn't a guy who, had no street credibility. I didn't look up to those type of people. I looked up to the street dude, the dude who was known for knocking people out, the dude who had the sack, who was getting that money in the street, the homie on the D's, the big homie who had all the females, who was, out there clocking dollars. My partner that who was getting big paper out there. That's who I looked up to because they were the biggest influences in my life at the time. The ex-penitentiary guy who had 22-inch arms, used to walk around in a wife beater with lokes on and a perm, the OG who had the 77 Cutlass on triple gold D's, with the white guts, with the green candy paint. I looked up to these cats. But I'll tell you something. If the homie with the 22-inch arms, the OG penitentiary homie, would have told me, hey, get your little ass from around this park. Ain't nothing out here for you, and ain't nothing to look forward to going to the pen. I wish I would have never been to the pen. I wish I would have studied my butt in school. I wish I would have got an education or took a trade. This ain't no future, man. It ain't nothing cool about it. I probably would have listened to him. I would at least have paid attention to what he said to some degree. But when it came from somebody who had no experience in that world, they couldn't tell me anything because I had already been to juvenile hall, at a young age. So going to the pen, I felt like it was just a rite of passage. And so my mentality was all screwed up. But if these street dudes would have taken the time and said some things that would have made sense, I think I could have made better choices. Because we're products of our environment, and you gravitate to what you're familiar with. I didn't have any doctors or any lawyers around me. There wasn't a whole lot of communication among my family or my other relatives. Nobody really talked about anything in regards to college or business or just your future prosperity. Nobody talked about any of that. Everybody just kind of did their own thing. I had uncles and I had a grandfather, but didn't get laced up with anything. I mean, grandpas went to work and had a job, and did well for himself, but he didn't communicate anything that I could, put together to create my own plan. So I was just making up shit as I went along. And I made a lot of dumb mistakes, man, just because that's what you do when you don't have a game plan. It's like traveling across the country without a roadmap. I was traveling life without any direction. And it's different now, man. Times have changed. I got this channel to try to lace up these youngsters and share insight and try to somehow give back, because I know it's rough out there being a young kid, trying to fit in, trying to be cool, trying to find your identity. I went through all that, but if I had to do it all over again, I think even, in retrospect, having that OG mentor who could put things into perspective, who didn't glamorize the street life, would have made a big difference in my life, man. If I would have had the self-confidence to strive for something greater, whether it's, being a stockbroker or, a real estate guy or whatever the case may be, it didn't have to necessarily be sports. I probably would have maybe pursued one of those avenues. But I lived in a fantasy world for the most part. I read a lot of books, a lot of magazines, and, based on my surroundings, I tried to apply what I was able to absorb. And when you're in the hood and you see limited resources, you don't see a lot of extraordinary success. You pretty much think that you're limited based on your surroundings. But you guys can get up out the hood, man. Take public transit, go somewhere else, and even if you got to get a job, I don't give a damn if it's bussing tables at a nice restaurant or working at some golf course, until you can figure out what you want to do with your life. At least if you put yourself around success and money, it'll rub off on you. The conversations, they'll start to make sense. And if you can touch it, you can create it. So it's viable. You can actually make something happen with it. And that's the best advice I can give you, man, is to get away from your surroundings, because the hood is detrimental, man. There's nothing good there. It made me who I am. I got love for, what it did for me in life, because it gave me a foundation. With that foundation, I can go anywhere in the world and not be scared, not be intimidated or tuck my tail. But there's just so much more, and I wish that a lot of my homies could see that bigger place and opportunities that are available, because when you limit yourself to a 10-mile radius, man, you're missing out on a whole lot. And the world should be your playground. But yeah, man, when I talk to these youngsters, like I said, I know a lot of time, then they go, OG or Pops, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, I was there at one time, so I do know what I'm talking about, and I've did everything you did plus some. And so, yeah, keep it at 100, man. You guys, think outside the box, and don't limit yourself. And when you hear that older gentleman or older woman talking to you, and she looks like she's had or he's had some level of success, pay attention. That might be your blessing right there, man. That might be your opportunity to do so much more. Don't block it out. I missed a lot of conversation because I wasn't listening. I was listening, but I wasn't listening. So I'm telling you, man, listen up and peep game. It'll make a world of difference in your life. Big Herc 916 represent.